watch analogy or the phone analogy in this case, there is a pre-existing knowledge I have from observation of the world that there are organic things that develop, and then there are mechanical things that are created by us. So in this case, the difference is that with the phone or the watch, I therefore have reason to think, well, because this fits the parameters of a mechanical human creation, therefore, the most logical conclusion is therefore that it was brought here by a human.
That's good. So that's why, basically, you had, then in that case, you will build a faith, by the way, because that's a faith. I don't know, you didn't see the person, you didn't see who put it, but you, based on your own reasoning, you accept to believe there must be someone who placed it there.
Logical deduction,
yes.
rather than
Basically.
yeah.
Yes, but I don't know, that's how it is, because the idea is, that's what I'm saying, to have, going back to the definition, which I used to, as you used to do earlier, is not my definition, is what the first definition by Google, yeah? Basically, you have something certain, yeah?
That's how it might,
a complete trust. So you have a complete trust, you have a complete trust in your thinking, and you have confidence in your thinking that there is in someone or something that someone placed upon on your thing.
That is how the word faith might be used in sort of common parlance.
Right.
It's not necessarily the most precise definition
About
in this
religion.
kind of
No,
context.
I'm not talking about religion. I'm talking about this. I'm talking about this other thing. Now, since this universe came into existence, yeah, that means they must be used. You believe you are more deist, let's say, to accept that there is a maker for this universe, basically. Yeah, you agree with this?
Yeah, a higher form of power.
Higher power. This higher power, is it powerful to create this universe?
Yes.
Must be. Is it intelligent? Does it have the knowledge to do things?
I mean, when you talk about knowledge, then you're sort of, there's a certain amount of, I won't say anthropomorphizing, but a certain amount. The word knowledge is kind of assuming a certain nature of being.
That's what before, because we need to know, we have to understand these concepts. Otherwise, for example, if a power with no knowledge, it will cause chaos. Generally, that's what we know about the power. Because there is no power except if it has knowledge, then that's something else. So that's why meaning that since this universe, something evolved this universe, something created this universe, this something is very powerful. Now, and this universe as well is so sophisticated, the way that it is, the structure of it. Us, our bodies, the way that we are very sophisticated creatures. And everything that is in our life, we are now here. We are now here, by the sun here. Just wanted to get fuel from the sunshine, at least a bit. Yeah, all these things, the trees and everything, and all the creation around us, all these things, there must a factor of knowledge there to create this universe. It cannot come by ignorance. Otherwise, I will suggest to you, if someone wanted to go to the moon, those people, we used to have they used to have in our village a carpenter, someone who's a carpenter, or someone who's a shoemaker. Can he make, for example, suits for the astronauts who goes to the moon? Can he do that? He should. You will say, the very suggestion that comes to your mind, if he has the knowledge to do it, then yes, he can. Correct? But if he doesn't have knowledge, no background, nothing, we'll just say, you know what? Let me make you something similar to the shoes, and something, a suit or something that you could use it to that. And let's see how things goes with you. So these things. So that's why when you look into this universe, when you look into this sophisticated universe, the way that it is, the way that the structure of the universe itself, and everything that's around it. So this power, it should have knowledge to create things. It can't be ignorant. It shouldn't have absence of knowledge. It should be knowledgeable to create these things.
If you assume that this higher power has a mind that is equivalent or analogous
I didn't say mind.
Yes,
I didn't say mind.
What mind, consciousness, whatever
I would
you
say
want to call it.
It could be consciousness, but we're talking about intelligence. We're talking about knowledge. Knowledge, basically, a knowledge should have knowledge.
But I would say your suggestion is correct only if we assume that this higher power or logos or whatever you want to call it is it's something that has consciousness or awareness in the way that we do.
Not necessarily, by the way.
No, it would only really
No,
stand up. As sort of
I have
logical
conscious.
necessity.
I have conscious. You have conscious. The dog has a conscious. The donkey has a conscious. The animal, the ant has a conscious. Each one. We differ. Even we use the same. Even we use the same term about consciousness. It doesn't mean we are similar in terms of our consciousness. You
We have
understand?
similar degrees, but it's still. I mean,
No,
us and the
we're different
dog.
degrees, of course. There are different consciousness, different type of consciousness, let's say. Yeah, and that's why what I'm saying here, since this universe came into existence, so and there is a higher power, moved everything. Yeah, the prime mover, as what you described earlier. So it should have knowledge to create things, to create at least the singular cell or the singular thing, at least according to you. It should have the knowledge to create it.
Again, I worry about the sort of danger of
Don't
too
be
much
worried.
of a,
Don't.
too much of an equating
No. It's
of
just,
beings such as us with something
I
of that nature.
I
I
never
don't think
I
we
never said
necessarily operate upon the same sort of rules.
no, not the
So,
same. But we're talking about knowledge to create things. That's what I'm talking. I'm talking about. Firstly, powerful. Secondly, knowledge. You should have knowledge. Otherwise, power with knowledge doesn't do nothing. But power with knowledge creates something.
yeah. All I was questioning was the extent to which one could say that yes, it must by necessity have knowledge, because knowledge is a word that we use like to refer to beings that would be so different to a higher power of that sort.
Yes,
I don't
yes.
know if it would necessarily be necessarily true to say, oh, it must have knowledge in order to do
Yeah, that's why it's not like us, but it's knowledge. For example, for example, ourselves, we gain our knowledge through different things. Some of our knowledge came by inheritance, by with our DNA. We have certain things, we have certain level of knowledge that we're born with. Yeah, we have as well and many levels of knowledge that we get it as well through learning and the learning process, etc. Similarly with many creatures as well, they are born with certain knowledge, basically. Yeah, even some creatures they never met their parents. Some creatures they never met their parents. As soon as they get out from their egg or from their shell, then they will have the knowledge what to do, what not to do at the first thing of their life. Yeah, yeah. Like for example, the turtles, for example, the mothers they will lay the eggs in area, and then they will leave to the sea, to the open sea. So those turtle they're born with certain things. First of all, the first thing that when they hatch from the eggs, they'll go to the sea and to find food and to do things. So they are already equipped with certain knowledge, with certain level of knowledge even before they're born. Yeah. So that's the point is. So since they were talking about the creator, we should have knowledge to create this universe. You agree?
Let's accept that for the sake
Good.
of argument and then move on.
Okay. So since it has knowledge, this power, all powerful, and should have the knowledge to create this universe, then it should have a will to decide to do things, not to do things. So that's why when this power created this universe and it has knowledge, so it decided to create it, and it could, and this power as well could not to decide to do it. So it means that it's not something that is, like it's not just only that like the intelligence of the computers, for example, just to do things and then they will process by itself. No, actually, to decide to do things and decide not to do things, which is the will, what we call it the will. They should have an independent will.
I mean, again, like this is assuming a level of
That's
sort
not
of similar
assuming. That's not
consciousness
assuming.
that it. I mean,
If there is
assumes
conscious,
that it's
if there
not
is
just a
conscious,
sort of
if there is knowledge,
generating
if there is
force.
knowledge, then there should be consciousness. Alhamdulillah.
If this is simply a kind of generating force that operates on a different level to the sort of material world, it doesn't necessarily follow that it must therefore have a mind and a will and make choices.
I didn't say mind. I never said mind because the computer, even the computer, they don't have not necessarily minds. You could just do things to them. They can do their different things. Even nowadays, they can do to have these decisions. If certain decisions, they can do that. Yeah, certain things. That's not my point. My point is, so since it has knowledge, that means it has consciousness. That means has a will to decide things, not to decide things.
Sorry, my legs.
No worries, no worries.
Yeah.
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 So
It
if
must be the same with you.
yeah, if it has, I know. So if sorry about that. Oh, sorry. الله يرضى عليك جزاك الله خير. So if it has an independent will, yeah, basically this is the definition of God. All powerful, all knowing, has independent will.
All powerful doesn't necessarily follow from it sets off the creation of the universe. It doesn't necessarily mean it must therefore be utterly omnipotent.
Yeah, that's what it means. All powerful has possesses the whole power.
But I'm saying
Because
if
it can't be something. There shouldn't be any weaknesses, basically.
I wouldn't say that's necessarily a kind of a logical necessity based
No,
on
no, not
this
logical.
thing
It's not logical.
created.
So because here this universe is so big, needs a huge power. So just only and this universe is nothing compared to the power of the creator. So that's why it has the power to create things.
I mean, the thing that, again, I wouldn't necessarily say that because this power or this force sets off the creation of the universe, it must therefore maintain and control the complete absolute power over everything. I don't think that necessarily follows.
Not followed because
It
again,
could be the case.
if us as a human being, when we create the computers, we should have something to say to shut them down at a certain point. We should have the power to do that.
But again,
You understand?
we're thinking creatures that would make a decision that, oh, if we're going to create this thing, then therefore we don't, for our own uses, we therefore want an off switch.
By the way,
generating power of the universe wouldn't necessarily, operate. In
no,
the same
because
way
it's
it
all
does.
because if it's all knowing, yeah. So if it's all knowing, that means that to know things, what to do, what not to do. So it should have the knowledge to do things, and as well. So since it's all knowing, that means, and if it has independent will to decide to do things, to decide not to do things, that means that everything is going to be under the control of this power.
I mean, again,
So it's not meaning when I'm saying all knowing, that means that you have the absolute knowledge of doing things. If we are as a creation of this creator, if we are as a creation of this deist, as you said, this creator, and we have the knowledge, we have the knowledge that we have. That means this creator should be greater in knowledge than us, way greater than knowledge than us. So that's why here. So when all of us, when we are created here on this universe, that means this creator should have the power to create this universe, should have the knowledge to create this universe and to know what's happening in this universe, and as well should have an independent will. And that is basically this is the, you could say this is the simplest actually way of thinking for anyone who just born today are inclined to believe in this higher power, are inclined to believe in God. And that's why they have done a research, by the way. They found out that even babies, if you leave them, that they're inclined to believe in God, basically.
Wait, hold on. Wait, babies?
Yeah.
How do you know? How do you find out if babies are inclined?
They have done that. Ask the researchers.
Can I just add one thing? There's a German psychologist. He mentioned that every action must have knowledge behind it. So every action that we pursue, we do it based on knowledge. So when we analyze the baby, when the baby is born, the baby is able to instinctively know where the breast is. Yeah. Now this is something in medicine is called routine reflex. That the babies, for some reason, they have that intuitive knowledge to know where it is. But who taught the baby? How did the baby know where it is?
Well, that would be genetic coding of natural selection. So, there's animals that will know. I mean, you mentioned turtles. Like when they're born, they don't see the mother going in. The genetic coding tells them, oh, I need to get into water quickly, because they stand a better chance of survival if that is the case. But going back to what you were saying about,
but genetic code. But sorry, 1 second. But genetic code does not teach the person in terms of necessity of knowledge. Genetic code is just a biological aspect. When the child is born, the parents is the one is teaching them some sort of education. So even when the baby is born, it's not the mother that's teaching the baby where it is. Yeah, the baby just instinctively knows where it is. So if psychologists tells us today that every action that we pursue is based on knowledge, where did the baby get the knowledge from? cannot be from genetic code. This is the biological. It's called nature versus nurture in psychology, right? So what you're talking about is nature. I'm talking about the nurture. Nurture meaning the environmental influence. Children are being taught by society or by their parents. But as soon as the baby is born, the baby didn't get taught.
But if you're referring, when you say the baby knowing where
Come, brother,
it
to the
is,
side. Come.
Oh no, that's yeah.
the baby knowing where it is, I mean,
Every child.
why is it
is
not
that?
possible for it to be a result of genetic coding that it will see a mother and think, oh, I should, oh, that's the breast.
No, they don't see.
they didn't
They
say
don't
that.
see. They can't. They don't see at the firstborn. They don't see.
But, so
Properly.
when you talk, so what was it you were talking about when you were discussing the baby being aware of where?
No, because the baby is being aware, intuitive, like instinctively, where the breast is.
Yes.
Right. That is something that is not acquired by learning. Because
And as
nobody-
soon as the mother
as soon
place
as
the
mother-
baby,
yes.
place the baby on the breast.
Yes.
As soon as they get there, as soon as they start suckling the breast,
Exactly. They know exactly where it is.
and they know how to suckle.
Well, yeah, that makes sense.
So who taught
an
them-
so human beings, because our brains are so large, like we require a lot longer to develop. So at the beginning we only have basic things like that. Most animals have
But the
like
baby-
the turtles know
Yeah.
instinctively.
No, but
to go.
that's later on. That's acquired by learning.
No, the turtles, they literally just come out.
Yeah,
of the egg.
naturally when they come, they will go to the ocean.
They will go to the
They have
It's a
this.
bit like what
That
you're
means
saying.
that means they are born with certain things,
Yes.
and this is not evolved over a period of time. The problem is what the assumption, what they will try to say, because this is over a period of time, because there are some certain things that they keep. For example, there are no single, for example to say, okay, they have done failure until one of them, was rectified. Not necessarily the case. So basically, there's always things they were going in the right direction, in terms of that. Even some cells as well, how to for example to focus, how to survive, basically. Even the single cells, as well, let alone even the multiple cell small creatures as well. They will get as well. They already have the in their biology, in their own DNA, how to survive, and the same thing for multiple cells and many creatures. The same thing. So that's why I want to say it evolved over a period of time. There's nothing like this. There's again, they are using assumption. Many of the scientists would use assumption just to say, you know what, it could be over a period of time. But there is nothing like that. When you say over a period of time, that means you should have many examples of failure until one of them is right. And there is nothing. And for example, your eyes are here. Your eyes not in your knees there. They are there. So it's not something in the nature choose for your eyes to be here. So there is something that the Creator, when He created you with your eyes here, knowingly that the right place for the eyes to be there.
Well, you talk about the creator designing us, and this goes back to something I was wanting to talk about earlier. So you mentioned that you were willing. This is something I've heard Muslims say before online. Is that it's that they're willing to accept that animals may have developed according to natural
Maybe, yeah.
selection, but not humans,
I will not say.
because
Yeah,
humans have a special sort of design relationship with God, and God has a purpose for us.
Yeah,
Would you say that you don't believe that humans evolved?
Not necessarily. I don't believe that the human is evolved at all. I believe that we are a special creation of God. That God that created us directly from Adam, our father, and also from Eve. But as well, I'm not saying for other creatures as well. There could be certain creatures that evolve from each other, but not necessarily all of them. So there could be, as I mentioned to you, there could be one ancestor for the donkeys and the horses. There could be that. Yeah, I have no issues against that. Yeah. For example, or to say between the canine, for example, there could be one thing. I don't know. There could be. I'm not saying it's not. It's definitely not. But again, when it comes as well to the human being, yeah, God has created them as directly, with certain level of knowledge, with certain level of understanding, and as well God made them as well sense the same thing. If they are someone with larger brain, as you mentioned, with different, for example, with a different will, not just only if our purpose just only eating and drinking and reproduction. So actually animals, they do better job than us. At least they don't cause pollution, they don't cause wars, they don't do all of that. But us, we do all of this, and that means we have our consciousness is different than the other animals.
Correct.
So that's why when we are deciding certain things, our decision as well could have an impact to everything around us.
Well, so the reason why I mention, the reason why I came back to the idea of evolution with humans and with animals is that if humans, if Homo sapiens did not evolve and we were created as is, a sort of unique species by God, why have we found the remains of these previous human species that were similar to us but different and increasingly different as you go back in time? So, I mean, in the modern world, still alive today, we have animals that are very different to us. And then we have ones that are quite similar to us. So the chimpanzee, for instance, is in many ways very similar to us.
Okay.
And then other things like gorillas are slightly more different. Monkeys again slightly more different. And then you get to like all these other things like dogs and dolphins and so on.
Yeah.
And then you find
As well,
remnants,
bears are similar to us.
yeah,
So what
and
we do?
then we find remains of Australopithecus, which is a bit like a chimp. I mean, it wasn't. It's a bit like one, but it stood upright on two legs.
Okay.
It stood upright on two legs, and then you have a collection of other species that we found the remains of. So we found Homo habilis, which again is quite like an ape but more intelligent. They were able to use stone tools.
That's an assumption.
Then,
Carry on.
then
Who said that? Is there an eyewitness that they witnessed him use tools?
well, they would have. Homo habilis. We would have found fossils of them.
They have
And,
while with their tools. They were on fossil with their tools.
I mean, I'd have to go back to the book that I
The book
read
never
and
said
so
it's-
on. But
that's why
as
you
to
read.
Why
I would
what
say.
specifically it was that.
Alfred, I think you're a good historian, but you're not a good scientist. So,
Can we just go back to the foundation of science?
Well, no, hang on a second, 'cause I want to finish this point, which is you say that we were created as we are. We were not. We were not evolved, and yet, if that's true, and if a religion, let's say Islam, is true, why is it then that we found evidence for the evolution of man, of all these different hominids, let's say, and then eventually human species, leading up to Erectus, which is quite like us, but slightly smaller brain. The Neanderthals, again, shorter, a bit different to us, but quite similar.
Can I just respond?
So
Sorry,
why
Shaykh.
would Allah not mention these things in the Quran or anything else, or why is this not in
All
any
right.
other religious text? And
Okay.
are these not signs that we have evolved?
I think it goes back to the foundation of science, because there's a difference between theoretical science and established science. So if we go by the bare definition of the scientific method, it's basically a collection of data that is repeated, observed, and experimented, right? Darwinian evolution falls in the category of theoretical science, not established science.
Yes.
Why? Because you cannot go back 65 million years ago, whatever the case, you cannot observe and test and repeat, right? Now, there's something called established science. I mean, anything that passes scientific method is established science. For example, if you can test under the laboratory bacteria, yeah, that's not a theory, that's a fact, right? It's established science. Big Bang theory and Darwinian evolution is based on theoretical science. Now, what do scientists say regarding theoretical science? Anyone can make a hypothesis. Hypothesis basically means a set of proposition statements without evidence. Even you can make a hypothesis. But however, it becomes a theory when there's overwhelming evidence. But however, if it's a theoretical realm, it can only provide you the best explanation, but it's open to wrong. It's only provision. So even if, for the sake of argument, you believe in Darwin evolution, in the next 1,500 years, according to scientists, because it falls in the realm of theoretical science, there could be evidence that is contrary.
Theoretically speaking, yes.
Yes.
It could be.
the same thing with what you said, these things that they found. And by the way, even they said there is always missing. There are many gaps, major gaps. Even with, for example, in terms of the similarity about the certain things, what they have done. Because I went to these things. You'll find few bones here and there,
Yes.
and then they said this is the continuation of the bone. Who told you that?
Yeah, can I also address this?
How is that?
You mentioned that how come there are evidences that suggest of Darwin evolution? The point is this: in philosophy of science, you have to assume that the world is in order. You have to assume that the world is rational conformity. Now, you cannot put under the laboratory to test and to verify that the world is in order. So science gives its own philosophical assumption. Theoretical science, in terms of the evidence, is inference to the best explanation. So when you talk about fossil evidences, it's only inference to the best explanation. It's an indirect evidence. It's not empirical evidence. You haven't seen for yourself.
And there is no full.
Exactly.
There are no full skeleton, but for you to know,
Exactly.
there are no full skeleton about all what you mentioned. It's literally we found different bones. They said this could be that. Who told you that?
Yeah.
Why this the thing that you said? Maybe it could be the ancestor of the gorilla. Could be the ancestor of the chimpanzee.
Theoretical science, anything that falls into theoretical science, is not based on certainty. It can only provide the best explanation, but it's provisional.
Yes, but I would say that you shouldn't allow the perfect to be the enemy of the good. So just because you cannot know, and this scientists have said that yeah, like it's not a good idea to say yes, I'm 100% certain in this or that. But
you do this. But this is what you're doing.
Can I just say one thing?
Hang on a second.
Sure.
Even if you're not 100% certain, because you think, well, theoretically, someone in the future might find evidence that contradicts this, you go with the explanation that is the most likely, that has the most evidence, rather than saying, like, well, I'll accept no conclusions because I can't be 100% certain. So, I mean,
but hang on, but scientists do give the conclusion. Scientists do give the conclusion that Darwin evolution is the best explanation.
Which you accept now, which you faithfully follow.
There is very strong evidence for it.
There is no.
They only give you inference to the best explanation. Inference to the best explanation means you can assume that it happens, but it can be.
There is no explanation. There is no scientific explanation. There is no, what do you call it? There is no. It's only theoretical science.
It's only theoretical.
It's not evidence, scientific. Evidence to say it is the case.
No, there is evidence. I mean, it's not the same as saying. I mean, just because I say, like, theoretically new evidence might be discovered, that doesn't mean that the evidence that already has been discovered doesn't exist.
Regardless,
and it doesn't mean you can't make
my friend Alfred, try to understand. When you are, again, what we are saying, you are using these assumptions. Yeah, these assumptions. What you said, you brought me these examples. You said that could be this more standing or more sitting or more this. Actually, in the past, they used to say by theory, they said there must be the human in the past. They must have a larger scalp, larger brain. That's in the past. They said this because in order for them, and they used to say even this argument. Basically, that one, the ancient human being.